Hey guys, it's Stephen here, back with another episode of 5 things that we learned from Manchester City's very underwhelming 1-1 draw away at West Ham. I know this video is a little bit late, but yesterday I was, if I'm being honest, I was a tiny bit hungover and also needed to let the game sink in a little bit and take a breather before analysing it in a little bit more detail because it was an underwhelming performance. And one thing I've struggled with in general with this performance and this season so far is trying to find the correlation between last season's underwhelmingness and also this season just being a weird season with this pandemic and this life that we're in at the moment. It's very hard to try and work out what's causing the problems. Is it the same problems as last season, or is it the fact that everyone is a bit of a mess at the moment? That's one of the things I've struggled massively with. So that's why I took a little bit of time to try and think about this video before I actually went and made this video. But having said that, let's get into the first point anyway. And we're going to talk about Mr. Pep Guardiola. We often talk about players in form and all that kind of stuff, and I always wonder in general if there's an element that managers can be out of form too, because I think we all know that largely Guardiola is a world-class manager, one of the best in the game. Is he possibly quite out of form though, personally? I guess the question we're asking now, is Guardiola past his best at Manchester City, or is he lacking currently a little bit of drive, and can he find his best again? Because I think it's fair to say at the moment Guardiola is actually making some mistakes. I personally believe he is making some judgmental mistakes. I mean, obviously people will go, well, Stevie, you're not a manager, Pep knows best and all that kind of stuff. And yes, of course he knows an immense amount of football compared to us laymen here and all that kind of stuff. But I think there are some things in hindsight you look at and go, we can look at a team beforehand, and that's 2 games in a row now because he named an unchanged 11. If we can look at a team beforehand and go, that isn't going to work, that's going to be insipid, the football won't be good, and there'll be no energy in the team, and then that happens twice in a row, and Guardiola can't see it. Is there something wrong with that? I mean, is Guardiola's judgment not too great given the fact that he's gone against his own principles and word to keep playing Garcia every single week? Is Guardiola personally lacking a little bit of drive at the moment? Can he find that form again? Do we have a Guardiola problem? I genuinely don't know the answer to these questions because it's all so circumstantial. City could get Laporte and De Bruyne or Ake back, and they could play the next few games with Gabriel Jesus potentially back in a week or two maybe. And also we could win 6 games in a row and no one could care anymore. That's how fickle football is. But at the moment, it is a fair question to ask if Guardiola is currently himself. I'm not sure he is for personal reasons as well. These aren't excuses. You know, I don't try and make excuses for people. I just try and see the bigger, broader picture. And I don't really like the very binary, kind of like granular, the binary one, is he good or is he bad? Like yes or no kind of thing. I don't like that approach in general. I like to try and look at the reasons why maybe a team or a manager can be underperforming and wonder if it's solvable. I mean, as United fans will attest, there was many years when Ferguson's sides went up and down and were pretty poor, and Ferguson a few times came close to actually leaving United. But I bet in the end they're glad that he never actually went because, he won so many trophies after reinventing his team constantly. Is that what Guardiola needs at the moment? Could it be that maybe at the moment he's just lacking a bit of a spark due to his personal circumstances, due to not having the players that he wants and fitness? I don't know, but at the moment I think it's fair to say we do have a mild Guardiola problem. I mean, where does it go? You know, if he carries on like dropping points, do we end up looking at someone else? I mean, Jack Gorn from the Daily Mail said that City like the look of both Pochettino and Nagelsmann, 2 managers that City would definitely be linked to if it came to it. We don't know. The next point I want to talk about is the finishing problem. We do have a finishing problem, and it's linked to both our midfielders and our forwards and our lack of strikers at the moment. I mean, genuinely at the moment, Aguero went off with a hamstring injury, which is incredibly concerning. I was saying to anyone who would listen over the summer that we are going to need a striker. If a striker is not going to come from the academy, which I've got a feeling, I don't think Guardiola fully trusts the lad at the moment. So in that instance, I think we're going to need a striker. And I was saying that beforehand because I didn't think Delac would be used because I felt there's going to be more injuries for Aguero and that Gabriel Jesus might get injured too. And look what's happened. Aguero is now out with a hamstring injury. Gabriel Jesus did say in his Twitch stream, it's weird, isn't it? Our strikers spend more time on Twitch than on the pitch at the moment. But he said that he could be out for 5 to 6 weeks and then later corrected himself saying 1 to 2 weeks. I mean, let's be a cautious estimate and say he's going to be back around, the end of November, 3 weeks or something like that. I think that's cautious and realistic. But then we've only got basically Sterling once again, Are we going to use Liam Delap? Can we use these young players to actually give us a little bit of momentum? Because I feel like at the moment we need to. I think we need to find potentially the long-term successor to Sergio Aguero. I'm genuinely concerned that Aguero isn't going to be the Aguero that we know and love. I've been saying this for a while. I feel like the injuries will catch up with him. I think they're starting to catch up with him. He's never been famously a great trainer. At his age, he may struggle a little bit to find his sharpness again. Of course, it could be talking nonsense. It could be we're sat here 12 months from now and Aguero's bagged 25 goals. But I'm just not convinced. Something about the nature of his injury at the moment and his age and just life at the moment suggests that it could be a very difficult year for Manchester City's forwards. And likewise, we're wasting so many chances. I mean, Sterling going through and goal. Sterling at the moment... He's abysmal in front of goal, truly abysmal. We have a finishing problem. I mean, you're not looking at the moment and expecting goals when we need them from Mahrez or Sterling or whoever else is playing through the middle at the moment. You're not expecting it, and that is a problem that we need to solve. We need to be ruthless. At some point, we have to sign a striker who's going to guarantee you 30 goals a season and 35 games a season, at least in the Premier League, because at the moment we don't have that. The next point I wanted to say is start Phil Foden, please, Guardiola. Please start Phil Foden. Please play him in his right position as well. Play him as an attacking midfielder or play him on the right wing where he can play and be very effective. Please just start playing this young lad with all this energy and dynamism, because when he comes on, he genuinely makes a difference. Once again, a beautiful goal against West Ham. A lovely little kind of spin and pirouette. Absolute high quality. Lovely goal. And he got an assist as well the other day when he linked up with Ferran Torres. Which is interesting. Why didn't Ferran Torres get on? Very, very, very strange. Whatever. And then, of course, obviously, it's just his whole approach to the game. As soon as he came on the pitch, I thought it was pretty obvious that he was the one trying to drive at defences. He was the one trying to move on the half-turn, already receiving the ball, already going straight towards a goal, and just making things happen. Sometimes you need a little bit of inspiration, and Phil Foden is the kind of person at the moment where hopefully his energy could be infectious. Which leads me on to my next point, actually, because we need someone to find a little bit of creativity for us, because the one thing that really struck me during this game is not that we were it's not like we had any problems defensively. Their goal was a good goal, you know. You can't really complain about a goal of that high quality. Potentially there was a handball in the lead up. But largely, I don't think the defence was a problem. Even though I don't think it was our strongest defence by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think it was a problem. I thought Cancelo, Garcia, Diaz, Walker did totally fine. But the one thing that really struck me from this game is that usually Manchester City's over the years, under Guardiola at least anyway, our biggest strength has always been on midfield. And our forward line, really. At the moment, though, it looks just below par. Like, I mean, we look at Manchester City at the best in the 17-18 season. You've got Fernandinho playing at his peak. You've got David Silva playing at his peak. Kevin De Bruyne playing at his peak. And then you've got Sterling playing at his peak. Sane playing at his peak. You've got Bernardo at his peak. Aguero at his peak. Gabriel Jesus being an option. You've got all these players who are miles ahead in terms of form and ability at the moment of what we've got now. At the moment, we play Rodri and Gundogan, so we don't... neither of those are capable of standing in for Fernandinho's level, in my personal opinion. And then you're losing one of the peak David Silva as well. And at the moment, De Bruyne's not even there. So we've got a midfield without the creativity, without the composure, without the balance. And then we've got a forward line at the moment that's just kind of running down blind alleyways constantly. Sterling looks kind of shot at the moment. Genuinely looks really poor. Mahrez just looks poor as well, performance-wise. Aguero, no, obviously, this is not him at the moment at all. Foden keeps getting played as a false nine or a left winger, which he isn't in a million years. And the one thing that really strikes me is that Manchester City seem to lack any real kind of like creative spark. We're lacking that kind of pauser, that calm approach. It's why I was so big on the idea of signing someone like Husam Aura in the summer, someone who can really help with those transitions and keep the ball in midfield and smother opponents and force them back and create those little triangles that Manchester City is so familiar with. We're really lacking width as well. The amount of times I saw Sterling and Mahrez drift in, but when the fullbacks were still deep, we had these massive like 20-30 yard gaps of nothingness at the side. So West Ham's fullbacks could tuck really close. West Ham's fullbacks were often like inside the boundaries of their own area, and they didn't need to be any wider than that, which made it so compact down the middle. And that's because at the moment we just have no width and no creativity. It's very concerning. Guardiola really needs to work on this. I mean, he did bring on at the end Zinchenko to have a left foot on the left and then put Cancelo over on the right. So maybe he's seeing the need for width there. Hopefully he's going to change that for the next game, because at the moment it's a problem that we need to address. If you think of Manchester City sides at the very best, there's so much width. So much width. David Silva playing in his little balls behind Leroy Sané, or De Bruyne or Bernardo feeding to Sterling or something like that. We're just not getting that at all. And finally, the thing I noticed is just a lack of energy in the team. Now, this could be circumstantial. This season is a weird one. It could be that this season is very, very hard for players to find themselves, to find their true motivation, their true energy and desire and all that kind of stuff. Understandably, because, I mean, we're all struggling at the moment. Your life, unless you're particularly lucky, isn't great at the moment. This country is a weird one. Football behind closed doors is a weird one. The players are facing restrictions too. It might just be that everyone's suddenly lacking a little bit of motivation. I mean, we can't really underestimate how weird it must be playing competitive matches in a training mode. Essentially, playing behind closed doors, it's like they're not really there. And imagine the kick and the adrenaline you get when you hear that surge of noise coming from the crowd. That adrenaline buzz and that kind of like momentum that you get from the crowd, it just isn't there. Players have to be 100% self-motivating, which is fine, of course, but it's very, very hard to do it all the time. And the crowd does egg you on, you know. You do feel more focused when you've got a big crowd behind you. And I know it's the same for all the teams, but I would say looking around the Premier League at the moment, pretty much everyone is struggling with the same thing. Most teams are struggling a little bit at the moment. It's a very weird time. A few teams are taking the best from it, like Villa and all that kind of stuff, but largely it's a weird season and games do look a little bit flat at the moment. So I'm wondering if we're lacking energy, lacking sparking, and if so, how do we change that? Do we start playing players who naturally would bring a bit of energy? And if that's the case, who are those players? Maybe, just maybe, it's the players that have got something to prove. Like Cancelo, for example, even though I don't think he's great defensively, I thought he was pretty good at left back the other day because he wanted to prove something because he hasn't played much. Maybe it's people like him. Maybe it's some of the younger lads. Maybe it's people like Tommy Doyle who had the fight and the energy to run and run and run. So use him every now and then to rest people instead of playing people tired. Maybe it's Phil Foden because once again he has that boundless energy and he's still very much proving himself. Use Phil Foden. Maybe it's people like Ferran Torres as well who's just signed for the club, or Nathan Ake or Diaz. Maybe we build a team around these people who have a little bit more reason to find that spark and energy at the moment. Maybe we do that because we'll not build a team around all of them, but at least use them where possible to try and alleviate some of the physical pressure and also add a bit of enthusiasm into the team, because young players or new signings or people like that can bring a bit of momentum because they naturally have more to prove. They find their inner motivation compared to a 30-year-old who's in there, been it, done it, won it and all that kind of stuff. It's harder for them to get going naturally because at one end of the career compared to the other, and it all might feel a little bit more futile for them. I'm not trying to excuse anything, but what I'm trying to say is that we need to find ways to find energy at the moment. Maybe that's an idea. Guys, it was a frustrating performance. And it wasn't great. At the moment, it's weird. We don't know how much this is about City or how much this is about the world we're in at the moment. At the moment, it feels like a continuation of last season, but it's hard to tell. I guess we'll see. There will be a preview later ahead of the game tomorrow as well, so stay tuned for that. That'll be out in the evening, 6, 7 o'clock, I reckon, something like that. For now, though, let me know what you've learned from the game and all that kind of stuff. Thank you for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon.